AviationPros.com is the portal website for AMT, Airport Business, and Ground Support Worldwide magazines. Visit daily for breaking news, industry blogs, and insightful articles from our magazine's editorial team. And don't forget to sign up for our publication's daily e-newsletters. It's all at AviationPros.com.
Hello and welcome to the Aviation Pros podcast. I'm Josh Smith, editor of Ground Support Worldwide. Today we're speaking with Tim Fulton, the CEO and founder of Ramper Innovations, to discuss solutions to real-world challenges faced by ground handling agents in the field. Tim, I want to thank you so much for joining me on the podcast and being willing to share some of your experience and expertise on this subject matter.
Yes, well, thank you, Josh, and Aviation Pros for having me on the podcast. And I guess I should say hello, everyone. I'm looking forward to having this conversation.
Yeah, well, very good. Let's, I think we need to start by properly introducing you to anyone in our audience who maybe hasn't interacted with you in the GSE market or at industry events. So in terms of that background, can you share a little bit about, who you are, your experience as a ramp agent, and maybe a couple of broad experiences that led you to this quest of owning and operating your own GSE company?
That was a good question. I guess they say that all questions are good, but I guess I'll start with the last. I think starting a company, you have to be a little bit crazy or have a passion, and I was a little bit of both. So some background for me is I spent 38 years as a ramp service agent for a large U.S. carrier. And I worked in various stations, held various positions. I helped establish their ramp training program. I introduced different products that made ramp agents and ticket counter agents' jobs safer through my time as a worker for this airline. I had various honors bestowed on me. The CEO presented me with their highest honor, which is the Customer Service Legend Award. And then I think one that was even more important to me is I was named Safety Person of the Year. That really was a feather in my cap. I enjoyed that. I'm about safety. I received various environmental awards, participated in various think tanks addressing concerns, issues that this company had, a system-wide type of thing. And I guess what I'm saying is that I had a passion for the job and passion to make a difference, and it led me to starting Ramper Innovations.
And so with that passion in mind and that goal of making things safer for people on the ramp, we should note that Ramper Innovations' flagship product is the Tesavas unit, which assists with baggage and cargo handling. And of course, I'm sure there's some firsthand experiences that impacted your world as a ramp agent that kind of led you to, developing this product.
Yeah, and I'll just explain for the listeners that don't know us that Tesavas is an affordable, compact, motorized folding conveyor that goes into the aircraft cargo hold and mechanically moves bags, mail, and cargo. So makes the job safer. And Tesavas stands for Tim Saves Backs. But yeah, so my years of experience, what led to developing this was I had developed a product where I worked. We moved a lot of commercial fish boxes, and I had developed a product of folding rollers, basically, and it worked great with fish boxes, but it didn't work with bags and so on. But I had developed other products, if you will, at both the local station level and, like I mentioned earlier, system-wide. Not only was I involved with the think tanks, but I developed my own products that was system-wide for the company. I even had one product stolen from me. They took my idea, and it's on the market today. So we learned some lessons there. I had another product that I developed that the company I was working for owned it because I developed it on their time, if you will. I guess what really started the development of Tesavas was this company I was working for got a citation from Labor and Industry for ergonomic issues, and they asked me if I could develop something to help them out. And so life situations came about such that I had the opportunity to really devote some time to prototyping. I ensured that I didn't do it on the company time this time. Yeah, and we tried dozens of different ideas, and then one day I saw some motorized rollerblades. And I'm going, well, if they can put motors in those things, they can put motors in rollers. And sure enough, they've already done that. I didn't have to reinvent the wheel there. But that led to the idea of this folding system. I got it down, engineered it out, and applied for a patent, and surprisingly enough, I got it.
Well, great. And since day one, I'm sure there's been some, trials and tests and learnings that have come with developing the Tesabas. What updates have been made to the design since it was initially developed, and kind of which of the features would you say help ground handlers the most?
So really, the only thing that's still original is the idea, the concept, if you will. It's everything has been changed and improved. One thing that is the same is we have a UHMW, high density plastic, that we have where to protect the aircraft flooring, and we still have that plastic, but we've come with a lighter plastic at this point. So that was a change. Like I say, everything's changed. One of the big ones right off was discovering the V-belt system for the belt tracking. If anybody's ever used a sander, belt sander, you know how hard it is to keep those things tracking correctly. And we had that problem with the initial one, but that V-belt has made all the difference in the world. The last thing we added, and this is based on feedback from people that take it, work on it, or work with it on the line, is we've added our control switches. Now on our head section, we have control switches on both sides. And what this does is it allows it to be in the forward belly and easy access for the agent, or in the back belly with easy access to the agent. So it can go either way. To your second question, what specifically is there about how do we help ramp agents make their jobs safer and easier? Of course, there's the reason it's called Tesabas, right? Saving backs. Another great bonus is when the bag or the commodity gets to the agent doing the stacking, it's already 3 inches above the belly floor. It's on top of Tesabas. And that allows for the agent not to have to grip a bag. They can just get their hands under it, and it's just an easier transition from the belt to where it's stacked. There's also a feature that we have that allows that in section to be on a slope to make it even easier, so they don't have to lift it so far. It's portable. It doesn't fly with the aircraft. It saves weight and space, of course, helping the airline's bottom line. The controls are similar to a belt loader. The only difference is that we do have speed controls. So, we'd like to see that in belt loaders sometimes, but you can just crank up the engine on those models. But so it's the unique folding design is what we actually have the patent on, that allows for it to be easily maneuvered when it's in the folding position. Has safety features like the belt stops when you just put your hand on it, but yet it will, when things are spread out more, it'll handle 150 pounds per belt section. I tried to make it affordable for all operations. There's good equipment out there doing this, but not all operations can afford that, and that's one thing we tried to make it happen. I guess maybe the bottom line is it was designed by a ground handling agent for ground handling agents, and we worked with those agents to make the improvements. So.
Yeah, I think the Tesabas is a really good example of some of the innovation that, just comes from, working with people on the ramp, understanding what their needs are. And I'd like to talk about some of those concepts a little more broadly with you. Folks may not know, but you're stationed up in Alaska, which I know that part of the country and that region of the world has some of its own unique challenges that ground service providers face. How have you seen ground handlers located up by you overcome some of these common challenges faced within the region?
You know, Alaska does have that perception that we're kind of extreme, but really our weather situations, there's challenges everywhere, right? There's cold, wind, rain. It's an outside job that we're doing, and so there's really not anything on that aspect of it. Alaska is struggling with having enough workers to safely turn an aircraft, but I think that's universal as well. Alaska does rely heavily on air travel, so I think a big challenge that I've seen is, the cargo holds are full. They're full of bags, they're full of mail, they're full of cargo everywhere they go, right? So it's a big challenge to fit all those different shapes and sizes into the aircraft, get them efficiently loaded in a small amount of time in these remote locations. I'm thinking of, for some reason this popped in the head. We were doing demo at a bush station, and they had about 4,000 pounds of soda pop in cases loaded into the belly that they had to unload quickly. And that's not necessarily something that other people would have the challenge of. But with Tasaba's, it made the job much quicker. The cases weren't breaking open and scattering cans all over the place and so on. And the manager figured that they would have taken a significant delay without Tasaba's, but they actually got it on time. I think they actually pushed early on that departure. So yeah, there are unique challenges, but it's more just of the volume and differences of things. I remember this is years ago, back when I first started, they were sending cement cinder blocks to the bush because it was cheaper to send them through the mail than it was to get them there any other way. So I think the uniqueness and the need to get things or move things by air is probably a big challenge for us.
There is certainly some different wildlife up in Alaska. Does that ever come into play in terms of, daily challenges faced at these remote locations?
Yeah, there's all kinds of different stories. I was actually just listening to the radio, and this isn't at a station or anything, but two people just got bit by a wolf when they were waiting in a construction zone. So I don't know of anybody being bitten by a wolf on the ramp, but I do remember one of the stations that I worked at years ago, there was concern about a rabid fox running around the station and those kind of things. Minks getting into things. And here in Sitka, talking about wildlife, we moved lots of fish, as I said earlier. And one of the ways that we did that was we take the pallets of fish to the line and then just take them straight to the belt loader and just slide the boxes off. But we had this challenge of ravens getting into the boxes. It was amazing how quick they could get in, tear open a box, and be eaten. I don't know how they did it, but they would have the eyes of the salmon. They just knew where to go, and of course that's not good. So invented or came up with this idea. We called it a scare raven, and we'd put it on the line with first and then take the pallets of fish out there, and it worked. It worked for many years until this captain decided that the scare raven was marshaling him, and he tried to follow it instead of the regular marshaler. And it was interesting that way. We had to take that one away, but we came up with a different design where there wasn't any way that they were going to distinguish it as a possible person, and they're still using it today.
Yep, I think that's a really great example of these day-to-day challenges that you have to overcome and sometimes need to be creative to do so. And that one's, of course, a little more unique to the part of the world you live in. But, on the other hand, are there an example or two of maybe some more universal challenges that are faced on the ramp, globally that have prompted the development of some specialized equipment that we see in use today?
Yeah, I think honestly, the ground service industry has evolved with, coming up with specialized equipment to meet the tasks that's needed to be made. Right now there's a lot of issues surrounding having enough workers to do the job. So there's a lot of energy being focused on AI, those kind of things. And I think that's good that we're looking at that technology for how it can help ramp agents and make their jobs safer and easier. But I think with that, the bottom line is it's going to be many years before they replace ramp agents because they're still going to be out there loading aircraft, breaking their backs, and doing that physically demanding job. I think it's part of our industry, and we're continuing to look at new things, innovative ways, and yeah, we learn that all the time when we go to the expos and so on. There's lots of ideas being brought forward.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of these ideas are coming from firsthand experience, and you've had this unique perspective of being on both sides of that, providing the experience to whoever's coming up with the solution, and also being on the manufacturing side and developing the solution. So I guess my question to you is a two-part one here is, just what's the most effective way to gather the necessary feedback from those working in the field? And then once that feedback is gathered, what are the next steps to integrate it into a solution and ultimately, bring a piece of equipment or an aid, so to speak, to the people out in the ground support field?
Well, I think for us, it started with my experience in the field. And then once we had our proof of concept and our beta models and so on, taking it to the actual workers, having open communications with them, with the ones actually doing the job, getting their feedback. And I've been involved when we introduce, whether it's a demo or when somebody's bought, we go there to support the operation. So I'm on the line. I can address things in real time. I can get initial feedback from them. And I think that's important for that, moving things forward there. Yeah, I use their suggestions, like putting the controls on the head end of our unit. That came from rampers. I've also developed relationships, if you will, with the GSE technicians, and they have a unique perspective on equipment and how things interact. And we've gotten feedback and thoughts on how to improve TSABAS from them as well. I guess that's why TSABAS is so new or different, I guess, from the original design, is that we've just taken it out there, taken it to the field, and got people's feedback.
Tim, we're recording this ahead of the upcoming GSE Expo Europe, which will take place in Lisbon, Portugal here in mid-September. And as people are listening to this, perhaps headed to the event itself, where could they find Ramper Innovations at the event, and how can they find you digitally if they'd like some more information?
Yes, thanks, Josh. We will be at the GSE Expo in Lisbon, the 17th through the 19th of September. Our stand is A54, and we will have a TSABAS unit there. We're looking to schedule demos in the European market, as well as distribution agents to help us introduce it into Europe. Digitally, they can find us at www.Ramper Innovations. Ramper is RAMPER innovations with an S.com. And they also can find us on LinkedIn, where they can follow us. And we're trying to post on a regular basis to talk about product updates and ramper safety tips. So come join us on LinkedIn and see what we're sharing.
Terrific. Well, I appreciate that additional information, Tim, and I look forward to visiting with you personally over in at the Lisbon event. So, best of luck to you at the show and moving forward.
Thank you. I always look forward to seeing you at these events. It's always special, so I appreciate that. And it was very nice to be on this podcast. I have one thought, the kind of a personal thing that I would like to end with is, and I do this when I have various talks and so on, but I challenge managers and executives out there in the industry to go out and talk with the ramp agents, because they're a valuable part of your operation. They know what they're doing. They're conscientious, even though they get a bad rap sometimes, that they're just there for a paycheck maybe, but they really are trying to make a difference. And if you go out there and listen to them, they're going to help your operation. I know for us, if we'd sell a heck of a lot more Tisabas if ramp agents had the say in it. So yeah, that's my challenge to managers and executives in the industry.
Very good. I think that's an excellent place to wrap up this edition of the Aviation Pros podcast. I'd like to thank our guest once again. That's Tim Fulton of Ramper Innovations. And as he noted, if you'd like to learn more about his company and the Tisabas conveyor system, please visit www.ramper.innovations.com. And for more information about ground handling safety, baggage and cargo handling equipment, and more, you can stay up to date by subscribing to Ground Support Worldwide's daily newsletter. And if you enjoyed this episode of the Aviation Pros podcast, subscribe to it wherever you download your podcasts, rate and review it, and be sure to share it with your colleagues in the industry. And as always, please continue to visit AviationPros.com.